Hi everybody, this is Pam Varner here. I am ready to go. Gonna have a fun day here. I'm just gonna wait a couple minutes for people to jump in and say hi. Um, and we are gonna get started. And I'm just gonna give it another minute or so. To see what's going on here. And today we're gonna play with Spin an Echo templates. I'm gonna use two of them today. And we're going to make a spider web, but we're going to do something else first. So spider webs are my favorite thing to make. So we're going to save those for the end. And I'm just making sure everybody can hear me and that we're here. And you guys talk to each other, have a good time, sit back and relax. And we are going to go. So this is one of the Spin and Echo templates. Oops, there we go. Here we go. This is one of the Spin and Echo templates. And it has a center line down here. It goes up to 12 inches, a 12-inch design. So you have a center line and you have holes for pins. Those are the only markings on the template. There are some horizontal lines here. I've never used them. Honestly, I don't even know what they're for. There are no lines up here because as you get bigger and bigger, you use more and more of the template. When you have a 4-inch design, you're only using a little bit of the template down here. Then as you get bigger, you start moving out and out and out. Okay, so this is Spin and Echo number 6. And we are going to start by putting the number 4 on the pinhole. Now, I have marked 16 crosshair squares on my fabric. I have also extended the lines. And the reason is if you can't see out 12 inches, then you don't know where to stop. So, there we go. Sorry, I got a weird phone call and I wanted to get that away from me. So we are going to start on the number 4. And we're going to, I put a piece of blue tape here so I can see what I'm doing, or I can see where the pinhole is. There we go. Because on this fabric, it's really hard for me to see the pin. So we are going to, it doesn't matter what line I start on, okay? I'm going to start here. I'm going to pull, this is my center. Here is my center. I'm going to stitch from the line on either side of center. So I'm going to stitch from this line to this line. And I'm going to, oh, my thread has disappeared. There it is. Like, where did my thread go? Sorry about that. Okay, so on the center line, lower the foot. I always lower the foot away from the template. I don't want to land the foot right on the template. So we are going to lower the thread here, and we are going to lift the foot and pull our threads. Now, I'm not on the line, so when I come back down, I want to make sure I'm on the line. I'm going to take a couple of stitches to lock my threads in place, and then I'm going to stitch. In the beginning, you need little tight stitches and stop on the line. When I rotate, I'm putting my template now so that the line is back here on that line. And if I need to, I can rotate my template and make sure that it's there. And now I'm going to stitch, and we're just going to go around. And now I can look back here to my right behind the machine, and I can see that the template is on that line. And then I can rotate again, make sure that it's on this line here. So I'm using one line as the center, and I'm stitching to the lines in between center, or on each side of center. I want to stitch too far that time, but it's going to be fine. Now, I'm going to end up where I started. And I'm not going to meet it. So I'm going to move this a little bit. I'm going to get out my spacing gauge. This is where you do your adjustment. And make sure that when I come this way, I'm going to stop where I started. And then I would lock my threads, remove the template, and pull my threads. And oh, I let the wrong thread go through. Well, we're going to have to do that again. Let's see if that's going to pull. I don't think it's going to. Nope. Oh, there it is. There we go. We'll cut that, and we'll cut our needle thread. So there is the first part of our design. Now we're going to go to number 4. But instead of doing an echo, which is how the templates were designed, or we're going to go to number 5, this would be an echo, right? I would use the center line, the exact same center line that I used last time, but this time I'm going to use the opposite. And this is going to give me a really pretty design. So again, I'm going to pull on the line. I'm using the opposite reference line that I used for 4 for 5. And again, I'm going to stitch from line to line past the center. Make sure I'm on center. Now, because this is fabric, sometimes it's going to touch and sometimes it's not. And that just kind of depends on where your pin is wiggling at that time. And for some reason, when I get over on this angle, my machine makes a ticky noise. It's kind of weird. And there I'm back to where I started. That went quick. Lock your threads, remove the template, pull the threads. You can bury the threads if you want to. And if this were a quilt, I might bury them, or I may just trim them, depending on the mood I'm in. But today I'm not in the mood to bury. So this is what we have going on now. The next one you would think would be 6, but I'm going to skip and I'm going to go to 7. I'm going to give this little design here that I've got going on some breathing room. And how have we disconnected? Oh. Let's see. Ah, there we are. Okay, so we're going to repeat what we've done so you'll be able to see everything. And I do not know why my camera decided to take a hiatus, but where's my template? So what I did was I stitched the 4-inch design using these as the center line. Then I stitched the 5 design using the opposite lines as my center line. Now I'm going to skip number 6 and I'm going to go right to number 7. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the opposite center line. If I can get this on, there we go. So this was the center line for 5, and I can tell that because I can see the kind of the valley of the design here. So this would have been the center line for 5. So we're going to move and we're going to do the same center line that we did for 4. And as you can see, we're using more of the template. The bigger the design that we're getting, the larger the size of the design. We're using more and more of the template. And then this is going to go fairly quickly. And we're here. And then we should be here. Go. And here is the end. And we're going to move the template away from the foot before I start raising and lowering it. The reason I do that is because I don't have a lever to lift my foot. It's all done by buttons. And so I can't control if the foot comes down and it's going to smack onto the template. I can't control that. So that's why I always lower the foot when it's away from the template. So this is what we got going on now. We're going to now do 8 and do the same thing we did with 5. We're going to do the opposite center lines. So maybe in the comments you can tell me how many of you have any of the Spin and Echo templates and if you've used them. And when I take a break, I'm going to give you guys a link to buy them if you're interested. Now you can tell this is going to go all the way through this design right here. And also when I turn this template, see this line here, I can now see it much easier from where I'm sitting. I can just peek and I can see that this center line here is on this line. So whether it's on the line that's the opposite or it's on the line that's right here, they're the same line. And I can see that's lined up. And that didn't quite make it in the center, so I moved the template while I was stitching. So that wasn't my finest moment. There are things, let's see if we can not move it this time. This is a very big template. And even though it is on a pin, it does kind of shift around a little bit if you're not careful. Maybe I should have some stable tape down here. With stable tape, what I usually do is I take the stable tape and I put my fingers on the template when I first get a template and kind of play around with it without engaging the needle to see where I think my fingers are going to go the most comfortable place. And then I put the stable tape there. And if that doesn't work, I add more or take some away. I very rarely take it away. All right, next up, we did 7 and 8. We're going to skip 9 and do 10. So we're almost done because we're going to do 10, 11, and 12. So now this one, we have to go back to the way it was on, let's see, we skipped 4, 5, we skipped 6, we did 7, 8. Oh, we're supposed to skip 10 and or 9 and do 10. I almost lost it there, you guys. I almost made a mistake. There we go. Okay, so this one, we're going to do the same as the one before it. So that was 7 and 8. So we're going to do the same as 7. You want to alternate your valleys and peaks. See how close we're getting to the edge of the template here? Again, the line on the template goes on the center line. And we go that way. And this is the last one, and I can't get it on the line, so I'm going to stitch a little bit, move the template a little bit, and there we go. And there's this. And we're going to go to 11. Again, the opposite thing. And give me just a second. I got to check something here. Okay. Now everything should be okay. There we go. All right. Now we are going to pull here, right? Because we're doing the opposite of the last one. You can do these all the same. That's how the templates are designed, to echo every line. But I like to do this with this, especially with this template. I think it's a really pretty design. And let's see. I'm gonna go this way. I can rotate the template and see that I'm on the line. And rotate the template. So it's exactly, works exactly the way that the name of the template is Spin and Echo. So you spin and echo. Spin the templates. This is getting to be really pretty. Any one of these combinations, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, any one of them just alone would be fine. I'm going to put that over there. Oh. I don't know why my camera keeps going out. Let me change the settings on the camera. Let's see. Sorry, you're getting my eyes because I can't see the, there we go. Well, the point is I'm repeating everything. So we did 4 and 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, and then we could just leave it at this if we wanted to, but I thought we would finish it off with an echo so you can see what it looks like when you actually do the echo. Let's see. All right. So we're going to go to 12 and we're going to do the same center points that we did for 11. Okay. So just a little different, but now you see why I extended my crosshairs so far, because there is no markings on the template to tell you where to stop. You have to have the reference lines to stop. This, I don't know if you can see, I just went off again. I do not know what the problem is. There we go. I'm trying to watch out of the corner of my eye to make sure that I come back. So there we go. I'm not completely on the center. I can push this a little bit and try and get it there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of stitches, see it, and get to a spot where I can move the template. There. And now I'm going to keep going. So I did just a little bit of an adjustment. It's challenging to do an adjustment on this particular template because of the way it's shaped. So I'm going to actually go back a stitch. Let's see, maybe I should go forward a stitch. Yeah, I should go forward a stitch. So I went past the line. And it could be the way I'm holding it, the pin placement, the reference line may not be perfect because I extended it. And this is the last one. We need to come up a stitch so that we can meet the stitch that we started with. So there you have the first design. I'll put this in here so that I don't hurt myself. And let me move the camera over a little bit so you can see what it looks like. So there's our first design. And this is done with Spin and Echo number 6. And I am going to see if there's I'm just checking to see for questions. It is a huge design. It's a 12-inch design. So it's a nice if you have a lot of, like on a modern quilt, if you have a lot of negative space, it's a really good design for that. It's also really good for a pillow. So I am going to give you guys, let's see, there we go. There is the link for the echoes, the Spin and Echoes. I'm going to give you that link right now. And then the other link I'm going to give you to is I have a couple of classes on the university that have spider webs in them. And they're really fun. So there's one that's just a spider web, and then there's one that's spiders and pumpkins and a web. So let me see if I can punch that through. There you go. So there's that. So next up, let me leave the camera at this angle right here and I'll move it in a minute, is we're going to make a spider web. Now you can do the same thing that I just did, alternating center points back and forth with this Spin an Echo number 1, which is the one that makes the spider webs. Or you can do the actual echoes, which is what we're going to do. But we're also going to put spokes in our spider web, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So I start with 16 crosshairs, and I've put a little tick mark here. I think you can see this one on the end of every other line. And those are going to be the spokes of the spider web. Now, this first round is very tedious. So it takes a really long time to get through this first round, but we are going to get through it as quickly as possible. So what we're going to do, same thing, I put a little piece of tape over my pin so that I can see it. We're going to start with 4. It doesn't even look anything like a spider web with 4, but that's what we're going to do. The other thing I've done is I put my template down here and I lined it up. This is my center line. This is my spoke. My spoke is not my center. And I put a little mark here, just a little mark right there at the edge of the template. I'm actually going to start out here. I'm going to stitch to center. I want my foot to stop where that is. Where this is right here. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. You can use any straight ruler that you have, and you can stitch from here all the way to that mark. Your foot is going to stop on that mark because I marked it at the edge of the template, not where the needle is. Okay, you can use any straight ruler you want, but I'm going to use Spinning Wave. I think this is number 6. Yeah, number 6. This just makes a straight line. So this straight line is going to come out from the center. And I'm actually going to start out here where this arrow is. And I'm going to pull on that line. and I am going to stitch down. Now, this is going to become my traveling spoke. And I went off the template, so that's going to get interesting. And I think that's where I want to stop. We're going to test it just to make sure. I have 2 marks here. And I need to go a few more stitches. There we go. And now I am going to use this as my center, and I am going to stitch to the line just past center. When I get to here, this is where it becomes tedious. I'm going to stitch a straight line out my spoke. I can use my spacing gauge to make sure that it is going to be a straight line, that it's, you know, on this line right here. And I'm going to stitch out. I'm going to stitch to the arrow or close to it. And then I'm going to stitch back. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is because this way you can stitch your entire web without having to change your thread or move anything. And that's got to come. You don't have to break your thread, is what I'm trying to say. Now, is it easier to go around and then do your spokes afterwards? Well, maybe. But also, if you're not perfect and you don't stop on this line all the time with a chalk mark, you're not going to be able to draw a straight line, and you're going to have to maybe stop every so often and readjust your template, where I find this a lot easier to just start with it with the spokes. And then I stop where the spokes are. Now, the reason I'm going out to this line, which is about 7 inches from center, is I want my web to be shorter than my spokes. I need the spokes to extend beyond the web in order for it to actually look like a web. This round takes a really long time compared to the others, but then it goes really quickly after that. Put this guy in. I'm coming. Hi. Having to change the camera every time I do this. I don't know why my camera is plugged into electricity. Everything is wired. I'm not sure why it keeps going away. So I apologize for that. All right, we are going to come this way. And I'm going to turn around every so often and just make sure that the camera's still on. The camera's on, it's just getting disconnected from StreamYard. See, I went off the line here. So when I make my web, I'm going to stop on the stitches and not on the line. How many of you make things for the holidays? Like whether it's Halloween or fall, Thanksgiving time, Christmas, Hanukkah. And what's your favorite thing to make? My favorite is Halloween decorations. But I'm really starting to like making some Christmas things, which we're going to do next month. We're going to have some fun next month. Little dust devil just went through my neighborhood. This is my last spoke. And then you'll find out why we did double stitching on all of these. Not that it's a big secret. Okay. And here we go. With our center. Now we're back at the beginning. This is the spoke that we started way out here. Remember, this is our starting point. So what we're going to do is we're going to travel up so that we can now stitch the next round, right? So you can use your template if you want to get a little straight line. You're not going that far. And then put this here. Now, we're always going to use the same center line. And because that center line, or the first spoke, was not double stitched, every time you travel up it, now you're going to end up with a double stitch spoke. So now all your spokes are double stitched, which I'm perfectly fine with. It makes everything look even. I almost went too far on that one. And I'm stopping on the stitch lines. And then here I can use my spacing gauge just to make sure I'm going to come back where I started on this line. Now, I'm going to travel up my stitch line, going up about a ½ inch. Move my template up to the next line, which is 6. And we're going to keep going. On the classes on the university that I posted the link for, there's applique pumpkins and spiders, which is really fun. I'm kind of wearing my spacing gauge like a ring. The first time I've ever done that. And this is the end of this round. Now, I can use my spacing gauge if I want to measure how far up I'm going to stitch, because I'm going to stitch up about a ½ inch, but I'm just going to ballpark it. I think that's too far. And if it is, I'll just travel back. Oh, it was perfect. Well, no, it was a little too far. I got excited there for a second. And if you would rather rotate clockwise than counterclockwise, that's fine. You can see this is going a lot faster than the first design, and I'll be right back. Hi. Let me get my camera. There we go. At least I can tell now when it goes out. So, well, there's a delay a little bit, but okay. How do we get up that high? And now we're going to go up here. And as you can see, our spider web is starting to take shape. Let's see, we just did 5 stitches. We'll see if that works. And 5 stitches seems to be the magic number. It's 5 of my stitches. It may not be 5 of yours. These are really fun. I made a wall hanging for my daughter's family, and I use glow-in-the-dark thread. Oh my gosh, the kids thought that was so much fun. So consider making spider webs out of glow-in-the-dark thread. During the day, they're like, oh, it's so boring, you know, because they're used to seeing black spider webs. See if 5 works again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at our web starting to look really good. A few more rounds and it will be done. That was 5.5 stitches. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was that 9? I think that was 9. Yeah. Now we're on 10. Let's go the other direction just so you can see it. Okay. So when I'm stitching to the stitches that I made in the very first round. If the stitches are off the mark line, I'm going to go to the stitch line. And now I'm off a little bit. So I'm going to come down here and then I can adjust. Or I can adjust when I'm in the center. This particular stitch line is just off the mark line. And spider webs look really good on table runners, wall hangings, and they don't have to be the complete web. You can do a partial web up in a corner. We have 2 more to go. There we go. Yeah, let's go this way again. Every other time I stop, I kind of look over my shoulder to make sure we're still connected. So right here, the template is not on the center line. So I can take another stitch here, see if that works. It didn't. So I'm going to come to center, and then I can adjust my template. There we go. Don't want to lose my spacing gauge. I'm off again by a stitch, so I'm going to stop here and move my template. And there I went totally off the template. Shh. Let's not tell anybody. I got excited because this is the last round. And now we're way at the end of the template. And I'm not center. So again, when I get to the center, I'm going to move my template. That is center. Careful if you hold the template. See how it moved? I'm moving the template. I don't mean to, but I am. So I just have to make sure I'm kind of putting pressure this way and then pressure on the other side as well, so that I'm not moving the template. And this is the last one, and of course it's off just a little bit. There, fixed it. And we're off. Oh. I'm getting the camera back, and ta-da, we're back. So I completed the 12-inch design, and so now we have a completed spider web, and we just went off air again. So, oh, and we're back. Okay. We'll cut these starting threads. So here is our spider web. I'm going to take the pin out. And then when you remove the lines, you have a nice web. Let's turn this way. Put that up like that. There is our swell. Let's see if we can move it over here and maybe give you a better, try not to knock the camera over, but there's our spider web. And then I'm going to show you a couple other things that I've made, if the camera lets me. And I think it's this one. Is that the right camera? Yes. Okay, that's Spin and Echo number 6. And that is with it echoing the entire design. So that's how that looks. And then let me go over to the board so I can flip this. And you can see this is the spider web, the number 1, going the opposites like we did with the very first design we did with 6. This is what that looks like. And then this is a table runner that I made, and the spider web is in the middle of the table runner, and on one side you have a spider with some pumpkins. I know they're upside down, but this one is right side up. And then that way you have pumpkins facing out on both sides. So this was, these shapes are in the Spiders and Pumpkins and Webs, oh my, is the name of the class. So that is everything that I have. I'm going to check here for questions. And I am so sorry that we kept getting disconnected. I don't know what that was about. I'm not seeing any questions, but if you have a question, I know, I keep seeing picture gone again. Oh, Fallen Christmas, Fallen Christmas, there you go. Yeah, sometimes I don't like tech either, but I'm not seeing any questions. So if you have a question, now is the time to type it in. Yeah, I like the double stitch spokes too. Let me go back to that. There you go. I think it looks good with the spokes double stitched. And because they're all double stitched, it just looks even. But if you try and do these stitches afterwards, right? And you've done these, if these points aren't perfectly aligned, where's my finger? These points are not perfectly aligned. It's going to be really hard, and you're going to have to stop between every one to get them to connect. I just think it's easier to stitch to stitching and do it that way than it is to try and line up the points later. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great month. If you celebrate Halloween, have a happy Halloween. And as always, share your pictures. And let me just do the deal day 20 is good for the Spin and Echo template. So if you want to get that today, and I don't know when it expires, if it expires at the end of the weekend or how that works. There's that link again. So again, if you have any questions, reach out. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. And I will see you all next month. You guys take care.